and just give you some rules of the road. I'm going to scare you a little bit here at the beginning. Just want to keep you on the right side of the laws. So U.S. Department of Labor, yes, there are some rules of the road as far as working with interns. But the two things I really want you to take away are it needs to benefit the intern and ideally delivers no immediate advantage to you. And so we'll talk a bit more about project-based work. Yes, is the 100% ideal to give an intern. So Gwen, your example of writing your operations plan is absolutely spot on as far as what a great internship project is. Not every program requires internships anymore. And so that's one thing you want to look at as far as the curriculum of the program that you're targeting. You want to make it very targeted. I am going to jump ahead a little bit here and talk about point number 8, which is we don't typically pay our interns right off the bat. In your case, because you're having them do like document preparation, more like admin stuff, 100% you need to be paying your intern. If you're having them like what you are looking for is a project-based, work, you're going to write me an operations plan, right? That is the project. Then you can you want to ideally, and this is noted above, you want to ideally get school credit for it. So that is one major thing. The only issue with students getting school credit from time to time is they have to actually pay for that class. So think about when you were back in college and you were paying for your units, you were paying for your classes, and there is in some programs an internship class. So you're effectively as a student paying you're paying your school to go work for free, right? So sometimes students will approach us and say, hey, look, I'm not getting school credit for this, but I want to get experience. So in that case, I call them an apprentice, not an intern. I'm not going to say that that's going to get you off the hook with the, U.S. Department of Labor, but I just come up with like a different name for it, right? And I call them an apprentice, and I'm going to share an example of the contract with you here in a moment and what I use and check-ins. And there's a bunch of links in here that should be helpful for you. And so with that, you want to be, thoughtful about where the student is in their cycle, right? If you also work on a school credit type situation, you then have to catch their cycles. So like when Cal State San Marcos probably just started, I'm assuming. So that's where students are going to, that do need internships, they're going to start scrambling. So, number 1, build an attractive description. I give you my example here. We actually have a little, we have a website, a video, a description, on the right-hand side of this page. So here's our internship program. I make a note in the document, make it sound friendly, basically, don't make it sound like arduous. Sounds crazy, but got to make it attractive, especially if you're not paying. And then I give some examples of the types of things that we're looking for in an intern. And there's an application form there too. And I highly recommend, even if you go speak to a class at one of the local schools, which is a great way to get interns, still have them actually apply. So have a form on your website, very basic, asking, just creating a process around this for them. And I am very clear up front, this is non-paid. And I'll explain what I mean by you may have the opportunity for paid project work. So step number 1, you got to have a description. And I say, just put something on your website so it lives there and you can direct people to it. Posting your internship. So a lot of the universities are using handshake.com now. It's kind of a platform that a lot of the schools are tapping into. I would really, if you haven't already, find out who the professor is for some of like the digital marketing programs and reach out to that professor on LinkedIn. And make a connection, because you're going to post it obviously on the Cal State San Marcos website, because you officially need to do that. But then I kind of go recruiting a little bit and I connect with some of the professors. Sometimes I'll offer to be a guest speaker, which they love, 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 right? Even if it's on Zoom now, it might be a lot easier. And don't ignore there's certain groups on campus, like Cal State San Marcos has an entrepreneurial society. San Diego State has an entrepreneurial society. So there are different like business groups where you can reach out to the group, offer to speak. We're actually hosting the SDSU Entrepreneur Society here at the end of September. I'm actually having the group come to Hera Hub. And so instead of going there, and so I'm sure I'm going to pick up some interns there. It's just a matter of telling folks, hey, I'm looking for interns, in operations and marketing, follow up with me. We've got a page on our website. There's an application form, that type of thing. So, and don't ignore some of the like private schools like Point Loma Nazarene. They've got a really good business school. And the community colleges too, Mira Costa College. There's a lot of different, types of schools, whether you're in San Diego or beyond. Thank you, Maria, for sharing the We Are Flick website. That looks super cool. The connecting female leaders. I have never heard of that. So that's awesome. I just added that to the list. And then the other one you may want to check out, I have used in the past, is Acadium. This is more like similar to what Maria described, where it's like a kind of apprentice sort of scenario. And Acadium is really, Gwen, for you, honed in on digital marketing specifically. So you pay like 300. Well, when I did it, it was like $300. But you get matched. And a lot of these folks are actually, they're older. It sounds like more what Maria described with this Flick platform, in that, they're looking to gain real world job experience, maybe their career changing, that type of thing. So Cami, who managed our Instagram for like 3 years, I got her through Acadium. So she didn't get paid. I just pay as an employer $300 or whatever the going rate is now. I get matched with her. She does like project work for us. So I had her develop our Instagram strategy and start implementing that. And then I hired her after the 3-month period was over. So that's one to look at as well. You'll see, I'll kind of jump ahead a little bit and I'll go back and talk about the interview. So I gave you an example internship contract that I use. And again, as the attorney in the room, Catherine, you can decide what you think of my contract. Obviously, it's really just to set some parameters and rules of the road. So gives a bit of, an overview of the business, the purpose of the internship. And I do state, the sole purpose is to, for mentorship and growth. This is volunteer, no monetary. So I'm kind of covering those bullets from the U.S. Department of Labor. I get their info here, date to begin, date to complete. And then if there is a number of hours they have to hit. So like we've worked with UCSD Extension, they have an international school program and they have to get 100 hours. Mm-hmm. And so we break it down into, it's 10 hours a week, 10 weeks, 100 hours, that kind of thing. So, and they have to track it. And this is the really, really important thing I want to touch on. 100%, you have to get what their learning objectives are from the get-go. So I put it in these terms. What bullet points do you want on your resume or LinkedIn? Like, let's start with that. Let's reverse engineer the things you want to be proud of putting on your resume, and let's create projects that allow us to fulfill those bullet points on your resume, right? Mm-hmm. And so sometimes the students like, I have no idea. So you got to kind of draw it out of them and give them some ideas, but we actually map that out day one when they start. So we make sure, again, that we're reverse engineering projects that are going to really be meaningful for them. And then just bullet points, I map out, we may not have all the responsibilities from day one. We may, be adding to that over the first couple of weeks, kind of what I look for, what are the requirements? They have to be on time, dressed appropriately, et cetera. And, I let them know if they do a great job. I'm happy to, recommend them on LinkedIn, just a few things. I have like a little non-compete clause in here. I'm sure it won't hold up in court, but, just want to make sure that, we're keeping our information safe, and I have them sign it. I don't countersign it. So super simple. You can use it as a template. If it works for you, take it from there. But I do like to have some sort of just formality around it. I think it's important. So let me go back to the interview process. So Catherine, your meeting on Friday, is it a phone call? Is it a Zoom?
It's a phone call. It's actually a Zoom. It's a Google Meet. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, awesome. That's great. So, obviously you're just trying to get a feel for the person. Is this going to be a good fit? It probably won't be the case for you, but I have in the past. It's like when you get your first intern, you're super excited. Tamiko, perhaps for you, right? Like if you find somebody and you're like, this is great, right? Like my tendency is like, okay, when can you start, right? So I usually try to play it a little cool, and I give them their first test. Because I really want them, I want to see if they're good at follow through and follow up. So I say, so nice meeting you. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to have you follow up with me via email tomorrow, or if it's on a Friday, Monday, or whatever you want to say, with any other questions that you have, any, thoughts after our conversation. You just put the ball back on, back in their court. And so it's that first little test to make sure that they're following through, and et cetera. And, it gives them some time to think. I do often interview multiple interns at the same time. And I want to pause on that. The magic is when you can get 2 to 3 interns all at the same time. It's so much easier than managing one intern. And I will tell you why. If you, are busy, which we all are, you're going to obviously try to set this up as a project where they own it. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But if you have 2 interns and you partner them up, it's even better because they can support each other, right? So they're not coming to you with every little question. They're a team, right? And it teaches them team skills and all the things. So I wouldn't be afraid to try to get a pair of interns at the same time and have them work together. And Gwen, even for you, let's say one intern is operations and one intern is marketing, that's totally fine. Still partner them up. Don't keep them secret from each other. I did that when I first started my business, and I'm like, so stupid. They can help each other and work together, even though they're working on different things. It makes them feel more comfortable to kind of have a buddy. So I would strongly consider kind of onboarding 2 interns at the same time. But I cannot emphasize enough, having face-to-face meetings, even if face-to-face means Zoom, right? Is really, really important. And I always carve out an hour every single week. It's a recurring calendar invite. We move it around if we need to, but I get busy, we all get busy, and I need to take the time to be really checking in with the intern. This, Gwen, as well, with working with virtual assistants. If you don't have FaceTime with them regularly, things can go off the rails. And so same with the intern. So face-to-face could be Zoom in your case, but remember, you're all Hera Hub members. You meet them at Hera Hub. It's such an awesome opportunity for them to come in and see, professional environment and network and meet with gurus and all the things we do here. It's and when I do bring in interns from SDSU, for example, because they're right down the street, they freaking love it. They're like, you have snacks, and they're just, they're all excited about it. So, giving them an opportunity to be in that environment. And, we oftentimes will say, your intern's welcome to study here too. We love to support folks as they're getting their career off. So, and legally, you're not allowed to have them in your home. Obviously, I mean, it may not, if you're a woman and your intern's a woman, it might, why not? But imagine if you were a man and your intern was a woman, you're just not going to do that. So, if you do want to meet them, you are more than welcome to use Hera Hub. That is part of what we do. So it's a great opportunity for them. Yeah, great question. I talked about the 2 or more interns at a time. Again, we don't pay interns right off the bat. We are very clear. It's an unpaid internship. I will say, when you list on Handshake, some students are going to be looking for the paid internships, and rightfully so. That's why you've got to write kind of a tantalizing job description for them. What I do though is I will tell them right off the bat, if you are awesome, if you show me you're a rock star, you're a hustler right off the bat, then I may be able to carve off paid project work for you, right? And very, very definitive. So Tamiko, for example, for you, let's say you bring on an intern and the pulling of the podcast list is just, one project of many that you would give them, right? So with that, let's just say you carved off another project that was speaking engagements, right? Like find me all the places I can go speak. And perhaps you even have them start reaching out to those particular, and you're coaching them. You guys are coming up with scripting and, all that, you're teaching them. But maybe you set a goal that, when they book you 5 speaking engagements, you pay them $500, right? Like just giving some incentive. Sometimes I'll do this with social media. If I have an intern that's, helping us say with Instagram, I'll set a goal, an engagement goal or a follow goal or something like that. And once we hit that threshold, I'll agree to in advance pay them a certain amount. Just remember, $600 is the threshold. If you pay somebody more than $600 a year, you have to 1099 them. So if you keep it under that 600 threshold, you don't have to worry about that. So just a thought. Any questions on that kind of paid project side of things?
If they're getting college credit and you do that bonus,
I do
for
it
a project.
Exactly.
Is that separate from the internship?
No, because, the way I explain it is I don't pay you until you prove yourself, right? Like you don't show up and automatically get $20 an hour for just showing up. Like that's not how a business works. So, but I do tell them, look, if you're awesome, this project based, it's totally fine. I mean, there's no reason you can't pay an intern. I want to underline again, like it has to be meaningful, has to, hit their learning objectives. Like you really have to benefit the intern themselves. So the joke here is like, never let an intern, get you coffee. Obviously, none of us are going to do that. But the reason why I say that jokingly is in the movie industry, there have been a lot of lawsuits because the movie studios use interns a lot. And there's a ton of line of people that want to get in. And there have been numerous lawsuits from people, that were interning for these big, movie houses that were running around getting people coffee and literally, sued. You're a small business owner, like you don't have deep pockets, I wouldn't worry about that, but do just make sure that you're following the guidelines and staying on the right side of the law here. The biggest thing and nobody said this, so I'm super excited, but I gave this talk to the National Association of Women Business Owners last week. And I had a few people say when we did our round robin of like, what do you want your intern to do? And they were like, filing and like super admin work, and they weren't willing to pay for it. I'm like, that is not an intern, that is an assistant, and you have to pay for that. So think project. It has a start, it has a finish, they feel accomplished, there's a bullet point that goes on their resume and their LinkedIn. Like if they're an intern and you are not paying them, you have to absolutely give them a project. And Gwen, you've been through this before, when you don't set really clear project parameters that they own, right? And I emphasize that again and again, like you own this. I work for you, like 100%. I work for you. You're in charge. You own this project. So in your case, we'll give the operations plan. Like your job, intern, is to come to me and figure out how to pull all the information out of my head and out of Asana and out of all the places and create a plan. Like you are in charge. Like come to me with your game plan, come to me with an operations outline. Like I work for you, intern, and put it on them, because the worst thing, and this happens with VAs too, if you don't in advance make sure that they understand that they own it, they are just, and they can be kind of timid, right? They're coming to you, what feels like every time, what should I do next? What should I do next? What should I do next? I'm like, there should be none of that. Like, you know what you're doing. Here's the project. Come to me for questions. So Maria, any questions?
Yeah, I'm actually super glad that you told that. And I think thinking back, I kind of realized that I think I had mixed experience with internships. I had some, amazing ones, and I had some not so good ones, and I think all the not so good ones were where I was kind of directing the intern, and then often, either I was the bottleneck because they won't proceed if I'm not, if I'm not giving them instructions. So I definitely agree with you, and I 100% need to embrace that more in my going forward. My biggest question to you is, when you so what happened to me a couple of times is that I take an intern, and usually you agree on some time, and then usually internship is 2-3 months, and then I think 3-4 weeks into the internship you can already understand what the intern is worth.
Yeah.
For me, a lot of times what happened is that I don't feel comfortable letting them go. So I would say, okay, sometimes the interns do great work for me. Sometimes I do just community service and I help these people grow, and they probably won't be they probably won't contribute too much to a business, but we're a social business, so whatever we do is fine. So what is your process or strategy of either bringing I don't know if reining in the right word, but helping the interns boost their performance, letting them go?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for the segue, because that is the last thing on my list here, number 10. So I'll pull that up. So this is an evaluation form that I use. Welcome to make a copy of it. And my recommendation is to do this halfway through, not just at the end. Like, you're going to do this at the end, or you could do it once a month if you want, or after the first 3 to 4 weeks, Maria, in your case. And I give them feedback, right? Like, some of these categories may not be applicable to you, make them your own. Strengths, areas for improvement. And then I have the student complete on a monthly basis. What have you accomplished? What top 3 skills have you learned? What ideas do you have to expand upon your work? How can I support you? Is this project, something you want to spend more time exploring? And you can add to that list. And then I do a final kind of intake. So I'm having them fill this out again, sharing back with me. So it's a 2-way feedback loop in that case. You could easily make this a Google form as well. So I would recommend, Maria, start implementing something like that, 3 weeks in, 4 weeks in. So you have that, and you've got those hour meetings carved out, right? Like, you've got your recurring, 30 minutes or whatever it is. And set it that the third meeting, you pull something like this out, you have them give you feedback, you do the same, because a lot of times, it goes off the rails at a certain point, and it feels like it's too late to rein it back in.
So did you ever, thank you so much. And this is, I absolutely love the table, and I think I'm going to adopt it. So have you ever let an intern go in the middle, or what do you do when you feel that somewhere towards the middle that this is not working out? You're just spending your time, but nothing much is coming out of it for the business.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I think it's super helpful to have, and I'll screen share again, to have this agreement from day one, because then you can point to it. You can say, here's what we agreed upon, that you would, whatever it is that you want to say that are your requirements, timeliness of response, or, whatever it is, outline that. It's so important. I mean, some of us have kids, some of us don't. If you have kids, you understand, setting expectations is everything, right? 100%. You've got to be just super clear, and it's got to be in writing. And so lay out your requirements and go back to those goals. And I would say, look, here's what we agreed on in the beginning. And I have fired interns before. Here's what we agreed, because, here's what you said you were going to do. You signed this contract, right? And these were the things that were important to me, and these are the things that are important to you. And we're just not connecting on this. I don't want to waste your time. you're busy, I'm busy. This is not working out. And that's completely okay to say that, right? But it's so much easier to say it when it's in black and white, right? There's just no there's no vagueness about it. And I'm always like, I expect greatness out of you. Like, I say that to every employee, every intern, this is an excellent organization. We're doing important work. I'm excited to have you here. I expect a lot out of you. Big smile on my face, right? How you deliver things is so incredibly important, right? And so, we're a team. This is going to be exciting. I want you to feel part of this, right? And just set the bar high, right? The how to win friends and influence people, like rule number one, I think, right? Is just like, set the bar high. So I think in doing that, hopefully, and people still may flake, things happen, people get sick, families get sick, things happen, that type of thing. So, but again, I think the importance of like letting them know, like, here's the outcome. We start with the outcome in mind, those bullet points. I'm happy to give you a recommendation on LinkedIn. If your intern doesn't have a LinkedIn already, like that's project number one for them. Like set up your LinkedIn, get it up and running, like start getting involved in LinkedIn. Like it is the number one tool for anybody in business. So Gwen, thought, question?
Well, I have a question, but I totally agree with that. My last intern, my only intern that I had, I told him I had him set up LinkedIn. I had him, and later we still are connected over Skype at the time, but he was later on in the year, he was like, that's so amazing that you got me on there. None of the other students have it. And this has given me such a leg up. So it is a valuable thing to ask them to do. My question was, when you're doing the review process, do you do them individual if you're hiring two at the same time? Do you do the reviews individually or together? Oh, and also more so the individual reviews I can see doing separately so that you can really focus on the individual person, but like the weekly one-on-ones.
Good question. So yeah, going back to your first question, I think that's a great idea though, maybe to do the like monthly reviews together. I mean, they could kind of learn from each other. I haven't done it together, but I think that's actually a great idea. The weekly check-ins, yes, a lot of this was pre-COVID. And we're a co-working space, so I make them come into the co-working space. So yeah, I would have, oftentimes the interns meet Tuesday at 10 and we all got together, and Janelle, my, ops person, got together, and anybody else on the team that was involved in the work that they were doing, we all got together for a team meeting. Absolutely. And even though, again, one intern might be ops and one is marketing, they're totally learning from each other. Like that's the whole beauty of it. They can learn, about each other's projects, and there might be something in there that, piques their interest as well. So the more you can like mush it all together, I think the better, and better for you too, right? You're not having to like have more meetings.
For sure.
I did at the top of the hour start to tell the Janelle story, and then I derailed myself, but Michelle Baker knows this too. Janelle Dahl, who is still our operations director, came to us at SDSU, and she wrote our first operations plan. And that was her project. And just, if you know Janelle Dahl, she's a rock star. And about 6 years ago, I became a client of hers. So she went out on her own. So it was like even better, right? Like I bred an entrepreneur. And now she's worked with lots and lots of our members in operations planning. And so it's a great, great, great way to, vet a team member. Catherine, for you, right? Like,
if I did the paralegal route, yes, I would hope to like mold them, give them projects so that I could test them out and then see if I could hire them at the end or whenever they graduate from paralegal school. Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I would give interns more credit. Like, these kids are freaking smart. Like they just are. And they, they're better at us than, I've learned over the years, like, say yes and Google it. Right. I mean, they can figure anything out. So I don't know, like, other than structure of like the contract and regular meetings and all the things that are in the tip sheet that I shared with you, I would let them, own it. And we talked a lot about that at the beginning. Like here, like truly, like I'm your client, right? Like here's the outcome I want. You tell me how you think we're going to achieve it. Build me a project plan. We'll review it together and then we'll decide on execution. And then you go, build it, put it together. Like I would give them more credit.
Yeah, I think it's just having enough work for them. That's more my concern.
So here's always my recommendation, whether it's a spreadsheet or a notepad, like you always have your running list of I'm just going to curse for, a fact, the shit that you want to do in your business, but you never are going to have time to do in your business. And that better be a running list that you have. So when somebody shows up at your door and is willing to help, you're like, here's my list. What on this list do you want to do? Believe me, Michelle, you've got plenty for somebody to do.
Oh yeah, I do. But the way you put that is like the shit that I have on my list. I have it all over.
Someday it would be great to revamp my website. Someday it would be great to write customer case studies. Someday it would be great, right? Like that is your list. And you just keep a running tally of all the things. So when someone shows up, you can say, again, here's the list. What interests you? And that's what I did with Janelle. Like, here are all the things I need in my business. What interests you? And she's like, operations. Like, great. Go do it.
No, that's great. No, that really helps put things into context. I'm always thinking of my client work. I'm like, well, I just did a sales presentation to these, our team worked on that, like too high level for them. Right. So
maybe not, but I think of more the on the business than the in the business. You can bring them into the business, but bring them to meetings. Like that's amazing exposure for them. But think about, again, those things that the more on the business stuff that you want to, do, and you're never going to have time to do.
That's perfect. Because I'm always.
And then it keeps you out of trouble because like one of those points on the U.S. Department of Labor is it can't replace an employee. If they're non-paid, Catherine's paying her intern, that's totally different.
I don't know, but now you're making me think I do have some of those things which would be good, really good. They're kind of like first year attorney projects, but like really I'm not going to make money off of them. They're just kind of like building my forms database. I can get an intern to do that. So maybe I should switch instead of, I don't know. I need to like
do both. Do both.
I could do both. Maybe I'll do both.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was the aha, because I keep thinking client work and I'm like,
thank you for
but I
bringing
have a
that
lot
up.
of non-client that I can backfill with.
Now I think of it like the list goes on, and I'm actually doing some rebranding right now, and so that'll be perfect. Okay.
So, Felina, this is so helpful. I wish I had time to mentor everybody and those interns. It would be so much fun. I would really enjoy it. Yeah.
Get an army of interns.
I know, it would be awesome.